2, 1. We are live for the 4th episode of Burning Subjects. I'm your host, Andrew Delgado, and featuring the entire Cylinder Cox Discord server. And sorry we are late on arrival today.
That was your fault.
Yes.
And mine. And
I was making
sandwich. Here, just 3 people.
I was making sandwich.
Yeah, but I was there to remind you.
Yeah. Anyway, Jim, would you like to be our introductor?
In the blue corner, using 3-foot gauge, using 3-foot narrow gauge track between the towns of Cumbras. I have to redo that. In the blue corner, using 3-foot narrow gauge track between the towns of Cumbras, Colorado, and Shama, New Mexico, we have the Cumbras and Toltec. And in the red corner, also using 3-foot narrow gauge track, but only confining itself to the state of Colorado between the towns of Durango and Silverton. Well, you can already guess it, ladies and gentlemen. It's the Durango and Silverton.
And
Today's episode is all about the rivalry between the Cumbras and Toltec and the Durango and Silverton.
yes.
2 different tourist railroads that both try to replicate one particular bit of American steam locomotion.
Yes.
Narrow gauge railroading on the Denver and Rio Grande Western.
Yes.
Who did it better?
That's what we're going to ask in this episode of Burning Subjects. Especially, we're also going to be talking about what is the fate of the Durango and Silverton, because recently there's been a lot of shit happening over there. I mean, one, they've had to convert one of their locomotives to burn oil.
Hey! But the circumstances were not very happy.
And, well, for one of the bridges that they had been kind of collapsed. And so they're kind of stuck there now. And also recently, I've seen a episode of Train Talk with, I forgot, Coaster something. And he...
Coaster Fan 2105?
Yes. And he made a video of the top 10 scenic steam train rides in America. And the first and the top 2 were the Durango and Silverton. And, well, the Cumbras... Well, the top 2 were the Durango and Silverton and the Cumbras and Toltec. And Cumbras and Toltec came in first.
What?
Durango and Silverton came in second.
And which place did Strasburg Railroad came in?
It came in 4th place.
But that's
Okay.
not important.
All right.
But either way,
Wait,
so
did you say Cumbras and Toltec went on like the top list?
yep, it was on the first. It was the number 1 pick for him anyway.
Hey,
But are these accurate? Let's find out today. So, what is the history of the Cumbras and Toltec Railroad? Well,
I don't know.
originally it started out, of course, being part of the Rio Grande Western Railroad for most of the. To be honest, I don't know that much about it, but all I know is what exists today, and of course about their locomotives. And their locomotives, you may not believe this, but we're actually going to talk about some later locomotives in later episodes, like for instance the Reading T1s. That's a little hint for you on a couple of episodes from now. But either way, you may think that the Durango and the Rio Grande and Silverton locomotives originally started out as 282s, but they were actually pretty big rebuilds. From standard gauge. Oh.
K-37s. The K-37s were the rebuilds. The
Yes.
K-28s and K-36s were just built as, Anyway, continue.
But either way, most of them were rebuilt from 280 consolidations into narrow gauge 282 Mikados. for the railroad.
Wait, this is not a standard gauge, by the way?
Yep.
Holy crap.
And that's why those boilers are so wide.
Chunky.
But either way, so we're going to start out with the Durango and Silverton, which is the one that I actually visited recently. So I took the ride myself, and to say the least, I recommend it. It was beautiful. I mean, the ride itself and the hard-working steam locomotive climbing up the grade. I mean, there was even a lot of action going on the railroad, since part of the track had to be repaired from what we had seen. And it was quite an experience. I had, this was my first time, well, actually riding behind 493. And it was also my first time ever hearing a Reading 6 chime in person. I'll never forget that day. It's like an eerie echo in the back of your mind that always stays with you. But we're not talking about now. We're also going to be talking about its past and its future. So, what happened in the past? Would anyone like to answer?
I don't know.
Wait. Sorry, what was the question?
What happened in the past for the Durango and Silverton?
Well,
Like ancient past or... Oh, wait, that's too far. Or do you mean like somewhat recently?
Like somewhat recently. Besides,
Oh, yeah, that's right. A big forest fire in the Rocky Mountains.
yes,
the
that
16 fire.
to say the
A
least,
lot of
yeah.
A lot of foamers of the DNS actually said that they didn't start the fire. Yes, cue that music. We didn't start the fire. But in reality, they did start the fire. And one of the reasons is the design of their spark arresters. It didn't fully prevent the engine from creating the sparks, and thus it started fires. And the railway just had to face a crap ton of charges. So, yeah, and recently they started converting their locomotives to oil burning. So that's like kind of, instead of going the Cumbras and Toltec way and actually treating their spark arresters properly and maintaining their engines properly, they decided to go for the latter and just yeet themselves into the oil universe.
And therefore, the song about the Silverton train is not accurate anymore because they're not shoveling coal.
Oh yeah. Oh well.
Who cares?
Either way.
Oh.
Currently, they have only one fully operational steam locomotive. All the others, from what I saw when I went there, they are in need of a complete overhaul. 486, 478, which is currently inside the museum, and I forgot the other one. 482, I think, or was it 481? But either way, when I went there, they also are currently converting another locomotive to burn oil, which Jim probably won't like because of the smoke box mounted air compressor.
Oh god.
This one is 476.
Let me guess, it only has one pump on the smoke box and the door is off-centered.
Yes.
Okay, that's actually a bit worse than having two of them.
Yeah.
But carry on. My personal taste doesn't matter here.
Either way, currently they're working on converting most of their locomotives to burn oil. Excuse me. Except they are keeping a couple to burn the professional coal, of course, which includes 486, 482, and well, that's really it, I think. Anyway, that's all I've heard recently. And for a little message to any foamers out there about the 478, I got to see it in person. I got to climb on it, actually. But either way, to say the least, the locomotive is operable, but it is in need of a complete overhaul. So it has a
We
chance.
don't want a Gettysburg 2.
Yeah.
Gettysburg 2, Electric Boogaloo.
Yeah!
Okay. That got me. Either way. Now that we know some of the quirks and downfalls for the Durango and Silverton, let's move on to what, in my opinion, is the more superior railroad, which sadly I haven't visited, but I'm gonna be going there in Christmas. Either way,
Aren't you probably gonna spoil that? If you're doing this live, aren't you gonna spoil that to your sister if you're doing it live?
she's not in the room. She can't hear me. But about that,
Okay.
my little sister, my stepsister, has never seen a live steam locomotive. And this Christmas, I'm going to give her the best Christmas present I could ever give her. Seeing a real steam locomotive in action.
And that railroad is none other than
The Cumbras and Toltec. And that was the one that actually made it number one on his list. And the reasons that he voted it as number one is because, and I quote, the fall scenery, the historical equipment, and the locomotives operating there. Of course.
Recently, they restored the 460 10-wheeler number 168.
Yes.
Such a
Which ironically is currently the oldest operating locomotive in New Mexico. The oldest. Currently, anyway.
I think I know the reason why this coaster fan dude put the CNT on like the number one spot.
Why do you think?
Because from what I've heard, the railways actually is like rated to be like the best scenic railway in America. The scenery is there, like all the original equipment is there. If anything, it's an actual time machine. Like they actually use the original like equipment to maintain their locomotives. They do everything like what they were used to.
Yes. And to say the least, that is one way to travel back in time.
And what also a little additional note.
Yes.
At least their locomotives don't cause forest fires.
Ooh. And another good
Now
thing.
that is a bug.
That's quite a bit of damage. Hey, Steven!
We're talking about the DNRTW's tourist railways, the Cumbras and Toltec and Durango and Silverton.
Yeah.
Who did Rio Grande and narrow gauge steam better in the preservation era? Andrew said Cumbras and Toltec.
I think it was Cumbras and Toltec
Cumbras
anyway.
and Toltec too.
Because
I can't judge about either of them.
But to say the least, I think that the Cumbras and Toltec did the better job. One, they, kept the heritage to the most. Two, it's literally like you went back in time. And then three, they maintain their locomotives like they're their f***ing babies. And three, well, they don't cause forest fires. And, of course, the wonderful view. And to be honest,
what I mean by they treat their locomotives like they were used to, they actually use the original equipment that was used there. So pretty much, the way they maintained their locomotives was just like how they used to back in the day. Unlike things like the Union Pacific Steam Program, like they use modern equipment. These guys, they use the original parts and all that stuff.
As if they really are back in time.
Yep.
Sometimes we don't need a time machine. The real time machine needs a steam locomotive. Can we agree that a steam locomotive is a time machine, technically?
It's more of if anything, it's more of a time machine, as the DeLorean ever was.
Just Yes.
Anyway, shall we continue?
Yes. And well, so all of us, what do we all what do we all think about the Durango and Silverton's Mikados? Like all of their Mikados, even the ones that aren't operating.
Hmm.
They're,
Wait, what?
I mean, K30. I mean, it's K36s, and they're
Like, because of the conversion to narrow gauge, don't they have their driving wheels on the 3-foot axles within the frames with big cranks on the outside, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the K37s. Those, I think, the K37s were the ones that were rebuilt. It was the K36s that were just built as narrow gauge engines.
But they still have the driving wheels within the frame and cranks on the outside, right?
And that's what I call a thick locomotive.
Yeah.
Counterweights.
That's what I call a thick locomotive.
Either way. So, but yes, they were converted from from standard gauge to narrow gauge. And, well, to be honest, now there's some of the more powerful narrow gauge locomotives operating in the preservation era.
Okay, I've just checked, and yep, it was the K37s that were rebuilt.
Yes.
It was the K36s that are just standard narrow gauge locomotives.
What about the K28s?
Those were just built. They weren't rebuilt.
But they all have, that thing where the driving wheels are in the frame, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's very unusual. That's very unusual.
The only exception to that is the DNRG's like earlier narrow gauge 280s, such as 315 and
Yeah.
68. But yeah.
Actually, now is probably a good time to talk about the Cumbras and Toltec and Silverton's supposed competitors. To say the least, like the smaller railroads that operate those types of narrow gauge locomotives. For example, the Colorado Railroad Museum.
Yes, the home of K37 491.
Yes, which I actually got to see in person too. And is luckily still burning coal. But either way, the Colorado Railroad Museum is a museum that mostly takes place outside. And, well, like the railroads we just mentioned here, they all run narrow gauge. And, well, recently, this is a little bit of a celebration, they recently finished the complete refurbishment of Rio Grande Southern number 20.
Yay.
Yay.
Okay.
Yeah, this is kind of a meh episode. Not really.
I guess that's because we're mostly fans of standard gauge steam and not so much narrow gauge stuff.
Yeah, I guess.
I like narrow gauge steam too. Pretty much the only narrow gauge shit that I like is, well,
Tweetsies.
To be honest,
Yeah.
I think this is going to be the shortest episode of Burning Subjects, just because, well, they're the shortest locomotives.
Yeah.
Comedy.
And again, we actually prefer standard gauge more, even though we don't have anything against narrow gauge per se. We're just not as interested into that as we are with standard gauge steam.
I'm a huge narrow gauge fan. I'll be honest.
Well.
Okay, then most of them.
Well, to say the least, I actually wanted to put this in because I live in New Mexico, and I have the right to say this. We need more standard gauge steam locomotives operating here.
Totally agree.
Because
you're working on that. We know.
We're not really, but sort of, but whatever. To say the least, the only real standard gauge locomotive that's actually going to be doing mainline service is 2926, and that one hasn't even been fired up for its test runs yet. not many other locomotives in New Mexico have ever been taken into consideration for restoration. Which I'm not talking about 769. That's self-advertisement, and I don't like doing that in these kinds of videos. But either way, so currently the only standard gauge excursion star in New Mexico is 2926, which isn't even operating yet. But
it has yet to be a star.
Yet, anyway. Which
actually,
I actually wanted to announce a little schedule that I have put for Burning Subjects. Every 2 episodes of Burning Subjects is going to be a sort of top list, like a top 15, top 10, whatever. So to say the least, the episode after the next one is going to be another top 10 list.
So all the even numbers.
Yeah.
6, 8, 10, bags of shit.
That came out of nowhere.
Okay. But either way, for now, I'm actually going to tell you guys exactly what the next episode of Burning Subjects is going to be. Because, the next couple of episodes, because those are already ready to go. We just need to wait for the times to come. To be honest, this whole podcast in particular was just so short because the Cumbras and Toltec and Silverton we don't know much about, and quite frankly, they're just there. And yes, they're fun to enjoy, but there's not really that much interest in them. They're just stumpy. Oh!
All right. Get on with it.
But either way,
Honestly, this episode would have worked better if we talked about Tweetsy. I would be talking the most, probably because I've been there many times in my life.
Tweetsy Road is just an amusement park thing. I mean, they do have actual steam locomotives there, but they're not really. But one of them is not even native. Both of them are not even native to the state. I mean, we got the
Technically, number 12 is because it's from the ETNWNC.
Yeah, well, the Yukon Queen is not really native here.
Well, I prefer the Yukon Queen.
Well, maybe she could just come back to White Pass and Yukon and.
Well, now if I may get onto the point for the next couple of episodes, I will mention episode 5 and 6, which is the next one. Is going to be talking about not a scenic railroad, but rather the preservation of a certain type of locomotive, which I won't mention. Well, not just one type of locomotive, but rather the, tragic scrapping of a lot of different extinct locomotives. So to say the least, in the next podcast, we're going to be talking about extinct steam locomotives. Not top 10 or anything like that, just talking about certain ones that we wish were preserved very badly, to the point where we would wish so badly that someone would build a replica, to say the least. Like, for example,
Both in the United States or even abroad as well?
We're going to go all the way to Britain for this, for locomotives that...
Ooh, you're treading onto my turf. Not that I'm British, but, I generally do UK and US steam locomotive stuff.
Yeah, and of course, if we're going to do UK engines, we need to bring Tom into this podcast.
Yes.
Thompson! Oh, yeah, good old Tommy gun.
Okay. Well, and now for episode 6, which is actually going to be, another top 10 kind of list. And that list, that is the top 10 future steam excursion stars. Like, for example, what is a locomotive currently being restored right now? Like, how about
2926?
Well,
duh.
Yeah, but what about Nashville, Chattanooga, and St. Louis 576?
And the Chesapeake and Ohio 2716.
That's already been in excursion service.
Yeah.
So
wait,
to make this list, it had to have never operated in excursion service until, very recently when it's going to be, operating. For another example,
Canadian.
how about
Canadian National 5080.
yes. Oh, how about Boston and Maine 3713 was it?
Yes.
That's another one. What is that? Oh, what about 3463?
Oh yeah, that's right.
Well, they're going a very slow rebuild.
Yeah, but it's maybe slow, but is it as slow as 428, the Union Pacific consolidation?
Might be
Oh, that killed my ears.
it might be. I think it might be a little bit slower. Lol.
Oh, here's another good one. How about 1309? That's a future excursion star.
We've talked about 1309 in like
The first episode.
Yes, but
Western Maryland, Boogaloo.
either
Maryland to Electric Boogaloo.
the smoke box mounted air compressors, but
If you don't count Nevada Northern 93,
what?
Nevada Northern 93, that has smoke box mounted air compressors.
Either way, what's another one we can think of that hasn't operated yet but is going to? Let's think of some other.
We'll find out I guess we'll find out.
It is time for
Oh,
funk.
So we don't-
I know one.
What?
CNO 2789.
Wait,
What?
I thought that was a cosmetic restoration.
I could be wrong.
2789?
Yes.
The last and youngest of the preserved. The last canal to be built and the youngest of the preserved ones.
Wait, you mean that it's actually going to be restored to operation?
Again, I could be wrong that they're refurbishing it to be operable, but hey.
I'm going to have to discover
we
this.
do our research before then. But
Yeah. The thing is, I didn't do my research for this. Because
awesome.
I
Neither
forgot.
did I.
I think I know another one. Canadian National 6069.
Nice number.
Nice.
Nice.
Apparently, I think there's plans for it to being the only coal-fired bullet nose Betty to operate. Because CNR 6060 burns oil and she's going under a rebuild.
Let's think about some other locomotives that are going to be operating in the future.
Yeah, we'll find out more after
These messages.
We'll find out more after a couple of weeks.
Actually a couple of weeks. Yeah.
Damn it, school.
Yeah, this is probably.
Yeah, I have school starting on Tuesday, so.
But anyway, like you said, Andrew, the winner of this wrestling competition is, from the blue corner, the Cumbras and Toltec.
Suck on that, DNS. Go start another fire and start chugging some oil.
Take. Oh, John!
I still kind of like both of them, but to be honest, I think Cumbras and Toltec did it better.
My dad likes Durango and Silverton.
What?
My dad likes Durango and Silverton.
Well, who's playing the John Cena theme?
Video. It's judging by the quality of the sound. It's coming from Jim.
Yes, you're welcome.
That's a good one. That's a good one right there.
Remember, not be for kids. So are we all done?
I guess we are done for today. So everyone, if you like
This was a short episode. Oh my god.
Well, as I was saying,
Jesus Christ, and I thought Baby Van Gogh was short.
I guess you could say the shorter the gauge, the shorter the episode.
I guess. Which actually, at some point, I'm thinking about making another top 10 list about underrated excursion stars. That's a good one right there.
Or how about an overrated one? I'd love to make that one.
Maybe.
That's not nice.
I've yet to meet one that has made one yet. So
Let
yes,
me guess. 765 is the most overrated one for you, Stephen.
It is overrated. I don't even know which one is the most overrated. There's a lot of overrated ones.
Oh well.
Anyway, without further interruption, now that this episode is finished, let's get a drink.
and now if you don't mind, it is time to take a piss.
It's time to